Mindenkit szeretettel köszöntök, ez itt az Igazság, órája, speciál, az Alapjogokért Központ műsorának külön kiadása. Én Szánthó Miklós vagyok, és mai vendégünk Bruesewitz, az X Strategies vezetője, Donald Trump amerikai elnök tanácsadója és social media guru. Alex, thank you very much for joining us today. You've been with President Trump as a campaign advisor for a few years, or maybe more than a few years. What was the secret of the last presidential campaign? What was the hidden magic behind the campaign?
Well, I think a few things. I think one, our country lived under both President Trump and Joe Biden / Kamala Harris, and they had an easy choice. They got to compare both administrations, and most Americans with functioning brains recognized that their life was better under President Trump economically, from the standpoint of the border, from the standpoint of global diplomacy and foreign policy, and so that choice was pretty simple. And then I also believe that we created a new plan to circumvent the mainstream media, and for the first part of President Trump's political career, the mainstream media dominated the narrative. They portrayed him in a light that was not honest or accurate about who he actually was. And so we created a system that...
Don't tell me that the liberal media was hostile to Trump.
You're not familiar with that, right? I hear the Hungarian media is so wonderful. No, but the media was very hostile to the president for 8 years, and it was undeserving. The president is one of the best people I have ever met. He's a very kind man. He's a very caring man. He cares about our country. And the media portrayed him in such a negative light. And we were able to circumvent that and portray the president in a very positive light, which his message of "Make America Great Again" is a message of love of country. It's a love of patriotism. It's not a love of anger, or it's not a message of anger or fear. It's about love of country. And so we capitalized on that, and we had great success on November 5th because of it.
How were you able to get out the vote? Because as far as I know, Republicans did a fantastic job if it came to early voting. Republicans did a great job if it comes to the different minorities. Mm-hmm. Those voters who previously voted for Obama or maybe even for Biden, what was the hidden secret or hidden magic behind getting out the votes for Trump?
Well,
compared to the previous election.
We talked to everybody. We didn't look at a demographic or a group and think, oh, we don't have a chance with those. We believe that our message is very similar to your message, actually. You know, it's
family.
Very similar, very similar. And we believe that message resonated with all different types of Americans. Doesn't matter what your skin color is. Doesn't matter what your religion is. It just didn't matter. We talked to you, and we had a team that was a fantastic team. Our campaign staff was very brilliant. We had a lot of allies that played unique roles. But no group was off limits. You know, for many years and many generations before President Trump came along, the Republican Party only spoke to a certain set of voters. They spoke to more affluent voters, upper class. President Trump speaks to everybody, and he makes a conscious effort to speak to everybody through the people who he does media interviews with, to where he does his campaign rallies, to the different types of leaders that we platform at our events. You know, the president would have Jewish leaders speak and Muslim leaders speak at events. He would have Christian leaders, and he would platform everybody that was deserving of a voice. And the Democrats, on the other hand, didn't want to talk to anybody. They really made a list of people that they absolutely, under no circumstances, will they talk to. And so we expanded our tent with our message. We never wavered on our principles or our values. We messaged them differently, or we messaged them to new audiences, where the Democrats only just talked to a very small bubble of crazy people.
So you're saying that the overwhelming influence or absolute power to interpret reality of the leftist progressive media is maybe over, and you do have this Trumpian moment in the US. And we also here in Hungary as well, the great decisions of POTUS of President Trump, how to protect the border, how to fight against illegal migration, how to fight against the gender propaganda and this LGBT nonsense, and how to promote peace all around the world. But what's happening in reality in the US domestically? Is there really a Trumpian moment, and the progressives, not only the media but the Democrats in general, are so weak, or the situation is more balanced? What do you say?
I think that we are in a Trumpian moment. If you look at the candidates who are doing successful or who are doing well in our country now, it's those who are embracing President Trump's vision for our country. I think the Democrats are weak because they have no leadership. I think the leaders of their party have never been weaker. I think they have little talent, and you need talent in this business, as you know, and your prime minister is very talented, but they don't have talent. And their talent was always fake. Obama, they say, was so talented. They said he was such a talented politician, but it was a fake talent. He was propped up by the mainstream media, and the media's narrative about how great he was, gave him some power. And then with the mainstream media being weak, Obama was out there on the campaign trail trying to work against Trump every day. But with the mainstream media weaker, Obama was weaker. And so I think the mainstream media needs to have a reset. I think they need to stop being activists. I think they need to get back to what they were supposed to do, and that's report the news.
Cover the news.
Right, without their opinions that nobody cares about. And but they're very weak right now. And because of the mainstream media's weakness, the Democrats are weak. And so we need to keep this momentum going, and we will...
How will you do that? How will you keep this Trumpian moment going?
You have to succeed. Right, and the president's off to an incredibly hot start. He's been in office for less than 70 days, and
it feels like it would be like, I don't know, 2 years or 4 years.
Right, but because he's had so many accomplishments in just 70 days, and he's learned a lot in his political tenure. When he first won in 2016, he was only in Washington 18 times in his life, and he never stayed overnight. So he was very brand new to Washington. He didn't know the right people necessarily at that time. But 8 years later, he knows everybody. He knows all of the secrets of Washington. He knows how to operate that game better than anybody. And that's why he's 70 days in. He's got accomplishment after accomplishment. And we keep the movement going by continuing to have these successes. And the president is also making a conscious effort to help build up the next generation of Make America Great Again leaders by endorsing them early. If you look at my friend Byron Donalds, who has announced his candidacy in the great state of Florida to be the next governor. He's a young man, relatively. He's 46. J.D. Vance, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We have a great generation of young leaders rising up on the coattails of the president's movement.
You have great leaders. You have young candidates. You have this Trumpian moment in the U.S. But what about global issues? What about Trumpism as an international actor? I mean, they always say that Trump is very aggressive and he's too masculine, etc. But if you turn your eyes to reality, and if you turn your eyes to the facts, if you turn your eyes to the previous presidency of Donald Trump, he was the president of peace. And now it's obvious that despite the extremely complicated situation in the Middle East, he tries to bring peace to the Middle East as well, while of course protecting and defending the statehood of Israel, and he tries to bring ceasefire and peace to the war in Ukraine. Right. How would you summarize or describe Trumpism as a global phenomenon?
Well, President Trump's a big believer in blessed are the peacemakers, and that is his main focus when it comes to foreign policy. He's very proud of the fact that during his term, he was the first president in decades in our nation to start no new wars, and he was ending wars. He was bringing troops home, and he was doing so in a dignitary fashion.
And Russia did not dare to start a war under Trump's presidency.
If you look at, under Bush, right? Bush, Maybe I'm not going to say, I'll say it. I think Bush was one of the worst presidents in our country's history. And he loved war, right? And he had this strong guy act. But Putin took territory under Bush. Putin took territory under Obama. Nothing under Trump, although the media said
and again under Biden.
Russia, yeah. Right? And then under Biden, Putin takes more territory. So the president's policies were very effective. President Trump's policies were very effective in his first term. And I think part of the reason he was reelected was because of the instability across the globe, and that people, not just in our country, I think in Europe and all over the world, believe that Donald Trump can bring lasting peace. And I believe that he will accomplish that in the relatively short term. He wants to see the deaths stop. And he also doesn't like the fact that our taxpayers are always financing it, right? On both sides. You know, we finance one thing, and it's crazy. It's crazy. I think the Washington establishment, the foreign policy establishment in Washington, D.C. has failed our country for decades. And President Trump has said, enough of that, and we're going to do it my way. And his way is to end the bloodshed and bring peace.
There is one other guy who has been talking about peace, more importantly, peace, ceasefire and peace in the war, about the war in Ukraine, and that's Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. And I think it's not without a reason that, according to our calculation, Donald Trump mentioned Prime Minister Orbán's name more than 100 times during the campaign. And as a payback, Donald Trump, Orbán Viktor was the very first European leader who was called by Donald Trump after his victory in November. And it's also obvious that, or well-known fact that in 2016, the Hungarian Prime Minister was the very first one and maybe the only one who endorsed in the international arena Donald J. Trump as the presidential candidate or the next president for the United States. How do you see not only their friendship, but the new political relationship between our countries? We did have maybe the worst American ambassador under Biden. He's called David Pressman, a very liberal political activist. And during the Biden administration, political bilateral relationship between our countries was not the best. Let's say it in that way. But how do you see now? You do have the Trumpian movement. There is a guy in the White House who believes in God, homeland, and family. They do share the same values with the Hungarian conservatives. They do share the same geopolitical strategy if it comes to peacemaking. What do you say? Will there be a new golden age between America and Hungary?
Well, I wouldn't be disappointed to see that. I think Orbán is a great leader, and I find it so fascinating how the media and all over the world, they cover both President Trump and Orbán and all of these men who, actually there's not that many, but Orbán and Trump, who want to bring peace, right? And the media covers them so negatively. But then they celebrate the crazy warmongers in the different countries. And so it's insane to me. And I think Orbán is a great leader for the people here. And his mission of God, homeland, and family is very important. We need to restore a lot of those principles in our nation. And I know you guys have done a good job securing your borders. And I think obviously the president has a great respect for Orbán. Our whole movement does, really. And that's okay to say. The MAGA movement, they look at leaders like Orbán and they're like, wow, we should learn from their successes and what they're doing. Because what you're protecting is Western values, right? Where a lot of European nations are not. And it's important to protect those values.
I truly believe that you can make America great again and again, and we are trying to make Europe great again. Thank you very much for coming. We'll have CPAC Hungary at the end of May in Budapest. Hopefully see you there,
I'll
Alex.
be there.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.